All right, you may begin your 7-minute pitch right now.
Thank you everyone for having us. I'm Alex, I'm the founder and CEO of zkMe. zkMe is an identity primitive for the identification of users on-chain. So it's one of the fundamental paths forward in order to have a really mass-adopted Web3 and DeFi market. The first question many people have is, why do we need identity on-chain? And it's mostly for 3 different high-level problems. So one of them is that every single chain ecosystem is actually its own non-interoperable data layer. And if we want to have a user being able to use many different financial services across many different chain ecosystems, we need to have some form of identity interoperability between different chains. Then, as most of you know, chain transactions are fully public. So if we want to have private data on-chain and private user identification on-chain, then we also need some form of protection against identity theft and identity misuse. We don't want DeFi protocol being hacked, also meaning that the identity of a user being hacked. And then probably most importantly, we want to have regulatory compliance on-chain. So KYC and AML compliance for decentralized applications. And that's actually a really, really important topic for Web3 and one that becomes more and more important as regulators start to enforce existing regulations also for DeFi applications. So I think most importantly, or the most famous example is the European Union implementing MiCA on the 1st of January 2025. But also here in Japan, Japan was one of the first countries to implement the crypto travel rule, which requires transactions over $1,000 to be actually KYC'd. So the answer is, if you want to have mass adoption in DeFi, how do you react? And the solution is you need some form of verification in which the end user is able to prove themselves to a verifier, to a financial service provider, without having to trust a centralized issuer that is in between. So we call this infrastructure a so-called zero-knowledge powered identity oracle. And since it's really, really difficult to explain infrastructure, I'm going to try to do it in very, very simple terms. So typically when you have identity, you have this form of trust triangle. You have someone that holds a credential, someone that needs to access that credential. Like for example, you opening a bank account, you need to show your passport to the bank. And then you have some form of independent third-party issuer that both the user and the financial service provider trust. This really works well, and it also works on digital interactions. For digital interactions, there's like one thing that is added, a so-called verifiable data registry. So that's like a database where the identity of the user is stored. So for example, Google owns all of the identity of every single user that is on the internet in such a verifiable data registry. But this doesn't really work on-chain, mostly because you will always have one entity in this kind of triangle that has full visibility and full capability of misusing the identity of the user. So what we say, we don't need that issue anymore. We empower the user themselves through a technology called zero-knowledge proofs to create trusted outputs that are mathematically impossible to fake, that then can be consumed on-chain. So for example, if I'm a user and I want to access a DeFi protocol, I can say, here's my proof that I'm over 18 without disclosing that I'm over 18. And that's why our vision is to become this identity layer for everything Web3, for the mass adoption of Web3. And our first use case is actually zero-knowledge KYC in order to become compliant on-chain. So all of us have done a KYC procedure already, so let's just look at a demo how easy it is to become compliant on-chain. So here, a user accesses a staking protocol and has the capability of verifying themselves. They have to own an email in order to be able to recover the identity in case the protocol gets hacked. And then once they logged in, they can go through the typical KYC procedure without any of this data that you see here, like the citizenship, the face likeness, the age, any of this private data ever leaving the device of the user. So everything is verified on the device of the user, including liveness, without any of this data being stored somewhere else, including also GPS location in order to prove residence. And then all of these proofs are sent to chain, and then the on-chain wallet is whitelisted in order to access a financial service. And then very last step, just a transaction approval. And with this transaction approval, the user is whitelisted to use a financial service on-chain. So this is really a revolutionary way of doing on-chain compliance with the highest level of user experience, zero knowledge, and compliance in mind. Without going too much into the value proposition, it's also the cheapest way of verifying users and will sooner or later also have applications outside of Web3. And for the users, it means ultimate privacy with self-control of data. We offer the service as a B2B SaaS, so it's a flat fee for every wallet that is verified. And we wouldn't be Web3 if we wouldn't transfer this into a permissionless solution. So we will transition from a SaaS to an infrastructure. And international team, I invite everyone to use the solution, so please feel free to scan the QR codes and try it yourself. And just to highlight a little bit the success we had so far, so within 30 weeks of being live, we have already verified over 380,000 users from 45 financial service providers, and we're really looking forward to grow in additional markets in the next couple of years. So thank you so much for attending today, and all the best.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Alex Scher, CEO of zkMe from Hong Kong.